So do we think? Are we thinking that things to get crazy after the election or no?
Not for me. I don't know what it's going to look like for the masses of people. They may allow themselves to get into a frenzy, but I mean, I'm a part of this world, but I ain't of this world.
Well, you could be not of this world, but if you're in this world, you can get caught in the crossfire.
I don't think I will. I don't think I'll be a collateral damage in all of this.
Do you say this because you think you'll stay out the way? Are you saying this because you don't think things will get that bad? You have people who I mean, like, and these may be extremists, man, but you have people who think that things could get so crazy that they could be on the brink of like a civil or racial war. Like you have many people, not just your everyday people, right? You have your quote unquote educated people, right? Because those are the people who are their opinions are respected a lot more. If you have those letters after your name, or if you got rapper or musician attached to your name,
all of that means nothing.
All of that means nothing, but we know how it's portrayed.
Dollar in your pocket, that's what affords you the privilege. Ice Cube said this. Oh my goodness, I can't get the quote right. When he was interviewed by CNN, and he was like something to the effect of the dollar affords you better privilege.
Right, because he was talking. Right, he was talking about it shouldn't matter. Because again, like, oh my goodness, we're gonna digress so much, man. Because we could talk about a lot of that. The contract. What is it called? The contract to Black America. It's a high split.
Which one? The platinum deal we talking about?
No. Ice Cube's thing that he put together. The contract to Black America.
I don't know the title of what.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
To one of the presidential candidates' campaign, or one of the.
It was presented to. It was actually presented to both.
It was.
It was presented to both.
But only one responded.
Both responded. The Democratic Party told him that they like what he have in mind, but come holler back at them after election. The other party told them, well, listen, we like what you're doing. We think we can implement some of your things into the platinum plan. Obviously, that was spun, and it was said that Ice Cube endorsed the platinum plan when that's not actually what he did.
Right.
But yeah, that's a whole nother question. So you don't think things will get that crazy?
I don't think we'll get into nothing more crazy than what we've already seen, man. We've seen some pretty crazy things already.
Interesting. I don't normally get caught up in hype, but I with this right here, I'll say I don't know. I honestly don't know, man. Because when I see a Trump flag, when I see Trump supporters, quote unquote, I understand other people see racist. Mm-hmm. First thing they come to the mind, like that's almost synonymous to the Confederate flag. And a lot of times they have them right there beside each other, right? Again, I don't automatically think I think a lot of them are racist. I think that's not necessarily what Trump stands for. I truly and honestly don't. I think do I think Trump has racist ways? Yes, I do. I think Trump's a businessman. I can't say it enough. I think he's a businessman. But I think his followers, and I think J. Cole said it so well in one of his verses. He said Trump taking advantage of poor white folks, and a lot of them don't even understand it, because a lot of them are racist, and they think because of the narrative that's being pushed within the media, right, that he's for us, and this is a lot of times he's against you, man. Like he's probably more and we kind of touched on this earlier. I think Trump kind of is more of a promoter for people, for rich so-called black people who don't look anything like poor white people. I think he's for them, rich so-called black people, than he are for poor so-called white people. But I don't think a lot of them understands that. That's my take. That's my opinion. So when you say that things could potentially get crazy after election, I do believe that there's some truth to that.
No, I don't think it's going to get no worse or no better after the election. That was my position on it. It's going to remain the same. That's my opinion.
Stand back and stand by.
That's not what I'm saying. But it's not what I'm saying at all.
That's what Trump said.
Those are the words of
what does that mean? Why do you say that in a debate?
I have to say that.
What sense does that make?
The president is not the most eloquent speaker. I have to say that.
Stand back and stand by?
He's not the most eloquent speaker.
The leader of the free world.
We all witnessed it. He was stop, stand back and stand by. I was like, okay, doesn't mean much to me because it won't affect me.
He's like, stand back, stand by.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's a bumbling just a bumblefuck of words to use artistry. He cannot articulate pretty well.
Everyone has secrets. The definition of a secret is something private that we don't want other people to know about. Well, I want to talk about everything on my podcast. Kind of like snitching, but not really snitching. Racism, bullying, incest, lack of culture, religion, sports, politics, interracial dating, sexism, gender inequality, etc. For many of those topics, people don't like to talk about and like to keep their opinions to themselves, like secrets. And if they do talk about it for some of those topics, especially racism and politics, people won't be completely honest about it because of what they believe the backlash will be. So therefore, they try to be politically correct.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that.
So for this episode, I am sitting down with an individual whom I met in the last 2 years. I think I've met him in the last 2 years. And every time I talk to him, it's not hard to tell when somebody's intelligent, but you could be intelligent and not know certain topics. But I mean, every time I talk to this guy, he's well informed in an array of different areas. And it's always intriguing to me. The conversations are always very productive. I could say his name myself, but I'm going to mess it up. So I'm going to have him to say his name for me.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you for inviting me to the show.
Yep.
The name is Akrab, al-khatib, Hassan El Bey. And some of those names are just attributes. Like, for instance, al-khatib is one that was just ascribed to me. People say I'm a teacher, so that is pretty much what that word is. It derives from the Amharic or Arabic dialect for teacher. And of course, El Bey is just a noble title that us people or Moors, people that look like you, melanated people all around the world, those are noble titles that we were stripped of for a long time ago. So now we're getting that understanding, that knowledge back.
So if somebody wanted to call, so for the podcast sake, and I was to put, would you like it if I put your entire name? Would you like for me to put, what do you like to be called?
Everybody call me Hassan for the most part. That's easy.
Okay. But if it's okay with you, I'm going to put like the description or whatever.
Yeah, you can put it, if you want to put it all in there, get all 15, 14, 19 words an hour. I mean, letters in there.
Bet. Elections in 3 days or three days, election day?
November 4th.
Is third? Tuesday.
The first Tuesday every 4 years. Ain't that the rule?
Yes.
I think that's it.
The Tuesday is the 3rd, I think. I believe it's so. I believe I'm right.
Okay. There it is.
So elections in 3 days.
Yes. Oh, wow. When you put it like that, it's right around the corner. Some interesting times.
What are we thinking?
The chips gonna fall where they may. People's candidate of choice. It will be determined by the electoral colleges.
Do you think the electoral college should be read away? A lot of people think it's like we shouldn't even have it.
I don't believe we should have the electoral colleges. Popular vote should win, should supersede. We shouldn't have super delegates in states that's carry more weight than anybody else, because we'll probably end up having what we've seen in the Bush Jr. election, and we'll probably see what happened down in Florida again, where the people think the popular vote is going to speak loudest, but that's not always the case. But for me, in my travels, I just look at this system for what it is, man. This thing it's been fixed. That's my opinion on the matter. And I would be foolish to think otherwise if I'm thinking my vote and my one popular count is going to make these things work out for us. Not that I don't vote or participate in the participatory process, but it's just like, it's not always what we want it to turn out to be.
Now, you have people out there who say that no president has ever been elected. They've all been selected. You've heard this, right?
Mm-hmm. I think I've said something like that myself.
How did Donald Trump win?
We have to look at the mental of the United States. We got a reality star as president. Why are any of us mad? This is what we did. When I say we, it don't matter what party line you on. We let this happen as citizens. So what are we really doing? Are we really, I hate to say it like this, are we really competent enough to play in these games with an election?
What do you mean?
Again, this is a good conversation off the rip.
Hey man, let's get into
We
it.
have decided to elect a person like a reality star, and I think he's a businessman.
I think he's a bit, yeah. That's number one thing for
So
Trump.
again, we have to say, like the question you brought, are these people automatically pre-selected for us?
Right.
But again, if we look at some of the history of this country, that was a Freudian slip. United States is not a country. It has not been a country for a very long time. There's records to prove that the United States is now functioning as a business. So, and then...
Wait, can you not be both? You can't be a country and a business? Are you saying this?
No, the United States forfeited that right a long time ago when they filed bankruptcy in 1933. These are all records you can find on libraryofcongress.gov. You can go to nationalarchives.gov, and these are public records. But when you pitch things out of sequence, 90 years from when it happened, you and I may not make the connect. If you love research, then you can probably see, oh my God, that was high treason committed. So yeah, your president now is the same thing as the head of an organization of a Sears Roebuck and Company and a Walmart Foundation. They're CEOs. So your president, he has the same title as a CEO of a Walmart or a Sears Roebuck and Company.
So therefore, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, which is being a businessman.
Yes.
Are you saying President Trump is exactly what the U.S. represents? Or are you saying, because I have so many thoughts going through my head right now. So when I look at Donald Trump, I see a businessman. I don't see a quote unquote president of the United States. I don't see a president. I don't think he carries himself as a president. I think he carries himself as a businessman. I think it's about the numbers for him. I think it's about what makes most sense for him and for his brand.
Right. I disagree on that.
You say that this country isn't a country, it's a corporation?
Corporation.
You have people who would say Donald Trump is an example of what America has always been from the perspective of, because obviously we've heard this racist, fascist, bigot, we've heard all these terms about when it comes to Donald Trump. But for me, when I look at Donald Trump, I see an opportunist. But people say, no, Donald Trump he's just open about it. He's open about what he believes in, what he's going to promote, such as racism. And they say, well, America has always been about that. So now we have a president that's just showing us, and he's just open about it. Instead of people being, what's the term? Covert with the way they carry themselves. But Donald Trump isn't, he's shooting it to you straight. And for me, when I look at Donald Trump, I don't see, I gotta be careful. The first thing, I'll put it this way. The first thing that comes to my head, Hassan, isn't a racist.
I agree.
I just see, but man, if I say this, the backlash.
Don't worry about the backlash.
Just say what if I say, whoa, when I say backlash, I don't mean backlash on the podcast. Like I'm built for this.
Right.
I say, I'm thinking about, like, I go to the Clinton School of Public Service. I attend Bill Clinton School. Yet, right, that's a conversation for another day. And whatever you have to say, I'm more than likely with you. What I'm thinking about is my classmates, because I got, like, shout out to Tim Campbell. He's going to be on the podcast here pretty soon. Tim is strong, Black Lives Matter, protesting. He's running the movement. It's literally called the movement. And I'm just thinking about what some people I respect would think when they heard me say the first thing I think of when I think of Donald Trump isn't racist. As a matter of fact, it's probably not even the second or third thing I think of when I think of Trump.
I don't think he's a staunch racist as the United States the masses of us make him out to be. Because if he was what the masses are shouting, then if I'm a staunch racist, you wouldn't find me in a photo op with nobody that does not look like me.
Facts. Speaking of.
So I think, and I have to use this term, one of the teachers or person that I've listened to over the years is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And what he says in some of his lectures is Donald Trump represents white civility. And it's peeling back those natures of racism. It's not that he's racist. It's just that they have somebody in office that they can relate to on whatever level. But again, that doesn't make me a racist just because I hang out with, these type of extremes or extremists,
right? Or
the alt-right or whatever they call themselves. I'm in the midst of it. That don't make me a part of it, You can put a cat, and we have some amazing men and women that have left us some beautiful philosophies. Again, Malcolm X said you can put a cat in the oven, but that don't make it a biscuit. So, just because Trump, people may identify with him, that don't mean he identify with all of their ideologies. And even we can go on to this most recent debate that he had, whatever he said about...
You call that a debate?
The first one, I think it was a nice sideshow. It was very entertaining.
I thought Donald Trump, they both were entertaining. I thought Donald Trump bullied Joe Biden in the first debate.
I ain't gonna use the term bully. I think we sensitive of that word. Bully itself is just two grown men that brought a lot of shame to officers.
Okay. Yeah.
So again, this is the president. I understand that. You don't have to respect the man, but you must respect the office. So that's what I always surrender to, the office that the person holds, because you can either bring it to a higher height or you can bring it down to the gutter. And that's what we've seen in those debates. The second one, I didn't even attempt to try and watch it. The vice presidential debate, I didn't watch it at all because, again, a lot of this stuff is already preordained, man, in my opinion. So you can see what you can foreshadow what things going to be like. For me,
but I want to agree with you. And prior to these last few years, I probably would have been more so where you are. Here's my problem, and this is another reason I was excited to speak with you because I respect you and you bring interesting perspectives and information. Again, if this was the case 4 years ago, a lot of people would say if this was the case, Donald Trump wouldn't be in office. If we feel that way, then when I ask you, Hassan, who do you think is going to win the election? Because you believe things are preordained, don't mean that you know who's preordained to be picked or pre-selected to be picked. But going by the record and what's been happening the last few weeks, the last few months, if you're a student of this type of stuff, you should be able to put together who you believe more than likely will win. But that's not the case, right? Are you in a position to where you say such and such is probably going to win? Not such and such should win.
I'll say it, and I don't really care because I've already made a post on this on my Facebook page, a prognostication of it. I wrote that Joe Biden will win.
A lot of people will be happy to hear that.
Then there will be some things that transpire, and then it may place the first black woman in office, and then other things may transpire.
Okay, I think I put together what you mean.
Is the nation really ready for that type of turmoil? Exactly. But
the answer is no. I don't think we are.
We have, but this is a country that we have placed so much racism and bigotry in this administration. But Tamir Rice, I call that child my baby. He was 13. He could have been my child. He was killed under the Obama administration. We can go back to when I was aware of the color of my skin in 1991. I was 11 years old. I just turned 40 last night. where Rodney King was beat down. I think that may have been the Clinton administration, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was
coming out of the
was
Bush
around that time.
senior administration, going into the Clinton administration. So racism is nothing new. That ain't something I like to tote around all the time. That's a fact that I'm much aware of in this country. That doesn't make me a staunch racist, or, we have to get along with everybody that's around us. We're all a member of this world. So I like to put myself, I'm a microcosm and a macrocosm. How do I fit into all of this? So yeah, some people just may not be good for you to be around. That makes me think about the whole thing of segregation. Was that a good thing for us? Desegregation, was that a good thing for us? I look at nature, and that'll stream into the next portion of the conversation of religion. For me, that is true religion, studying your history, studying your nature. You don't see a red ant making a nest with a black ant, do you?
No.
You don't see a blue jay making a nest with a cardinal. These are things that we're going against our very nature. So it doesn't make you racist. I think we're moving out of sync. So, those are just some things I look at.
Well, hold on. You're going to touch on that and then just like dip back out of it?
I
Hold
don't
on.
want to go out of sync because, again, I think we'll talk about what is religion. But
okay.
These are the things that I've seen in the United States. One administration ain't going to change this. I think everybody have to really make a conscious effort. Do we want to do better as human beings? Do we?
And you don't think voting is the way to do that?
Oh, my goodness. No, man. If that's what voting, that's the height of your participation in this.
Hassan, I don't know,
democracy.
man. You got these people put these celebrities on pedestals, man. And if Lil Wayne goes up there and takes a picture with President Trump like he did yesterday, or posts it like he did yesterday, and everybody catch hell, I don't know, man. If LeBron James is wearing a shirt and says "Vote or Die,"
we are a fickle nation. If our athletes, if your entertainers, people say this all the time. If those are the people you follow, we are fickle. Where are the educators?
I agree.
Where's the philosophers that are around here? Where's the technicians? Where are the engineers that's offering things? Now you have people that have these letters behind their name and has matriculated all the way up to school.
PhD, and MA, and MS, and all these other letters.
Economics degrees, and we can't solve the debt crisis. You have these sociologists with these PhDs, but we still got homeless issues. What is that about? Now, a doctor is supposed to cure ailment, right?
Right.
That's what you get them letters behind your name. I'm not trying to shun anybody's education, because education is never a waste. But what is it? What are you really doing with it? Or is it just something to make us feel better in this system?
You have people.
Again, I'm not shunning nobody's education. I'm not, because education is beautiful.
Just has to be used in its proper context, maybe.
Yeah, if there is a problem, if there is a remedy for the cures that we face, they out there, but nobody's interested in, because it may not line our pockets. We may have a problem with the kind of foreign luxury vehicle we drive. It may change our zip codes. The cure is going to be very, very hard, man, for our problem in the world. But nobody's interested in facing those type of cures right now. But that's just my opinion on it.
You have people who say that this could be the most important election of our lifetime. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with this?
I don't believe it's the most important election,
Ooh, I did not expect that answer, even from you.
I wasn't even active in the voting process when the first Bush was in office, Bush Senior. I think he's passed now. I think when Clinton took over, again, that was around 94 or something like that. That was supposed to be a very critical point in time.
Right.
Even though Obama, when he was coming in office, that was a critical election. I don't think so. We hype these things up, but they just boil down to bread and circus, and that's a term that the Romans used to use to give the masses what they want. Feed them bread and give them this blood sport. So that's all we're seeing now, more bread and circus in the United States.
I was not expecting that answer.
Oh yeah, these elections mean nothing for me as a man of color in the United States of America. These are just processes that we go through every 4 years, and we repeat the same thing.
Now,
Tomorrow, you and I, we will still face the same adversary tomorrow. We will still face the same fear of driving in our car and the police get behind us. We will still be marginalized on jobs. We will still be underpaid.
No matter who's in office.
That's not going to change.
Black man's, the white man, it won't make a difference. Mm-hmm. Great segue for me to say to you, when you hear people say, and I believe you and I may have had this conversation before, exercise your right as an American and vote. You should not have an opinion if you have not voted. If you have not voted, shut up. You hear people say, it is your American duty. It is your job. It is your duty as an American to not only vote for who's running for office, the highest office in the country, but to vote locally, because locally is probably more important than who's at the very top.
Right.
Okay. What do you think when there's a response to those people? The response of, okay, from a so-called black man saying to these people who's telling them this, I'm an American. And if you said that to Timmy, who's a Caucasian 20-year-old middle-class young male, then maybe it resonates with him a little bit more. But when you're looking at me, when you're telling me to vote for a system that's not going to do anything and someone could argue has never really done anything for people who look like me, then that exercise your right to vote or die doesn't really apply to me, because voting is or should be like anything else. If I give you my vote, I should be getting something. No. You shouldn't be promising me that you're going to be giving me something. You're not going to give me this politically correct gibberish to get my vote. You're not going to take pictures with celebrities that look like me to hype me up. You're going to actually give me something. I gave you my vote. What do I get in return? That's not selfish. It's a fair exchange. You have people who say vote because your ancestors died. My ancestors died, but they didn't die for me to vote. Okay. They died more than likely because a racist white person killed them.
That's the truth of the matter. That's the beautiful truth of it right there. I don't think that is the worst one I hear. And it's
a common one, Hassan. Yes, like it's very, very popular.
People died for the right to vote. You have to understand this is a system that was hesitant on giving you the right to vote when they voted this in the Constitution through the amendments. So I think our local elections are critical, and this is right time for so-called people of color to change the dynamics and the demographics of these elected positions. But for me, as a Moor in America, I don't think...
Real quick, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yes.
For those who don't understand, break down what Moor means.
Moors are all the melanated people on the planet. That was the last lawful title that we were called, Moors. They put it in your movies. We don't understand the context of what they're saying. But this United States government, they are very much so aware of Moors. And they don't ever want us to be able to come into our power. And I don't understand why. That was the question that...
You don't understand why?
I don't understand why.
Okay.
They don't want us to ever come into our power.
Okay.
Even though we were the ones that helped install them when they was forming their 13 colonies. Obama has went on the record of saying this. I think past Secretary of State Clinton, she's went on the record of saying this behind the Moorish flag, where they said, and the Treaty of Peace and Friendship legitimized the 13 colonies in their quest when they was committing high treason against King George for the war of the American Revolutionary War of taxation without representation. That was the premise of their war, their cause. And the Moorish American government, the King of Morocco, legitimized that. And there's treaties in place that should have been honored, but they were long dishonored. So I think that would be something that so-called black, colored, African American, or Negroes, they would really want to research that to understand they can get their righteous, lawful position again. But since we dovetailed that, I'm going to go back to the election question and to say, again, the so-called white man in America, they were hesitant about affording us the privilege to vote. But since that time, I don't think people of color has really thought about what does it look like to withhold the vote. I don't think we that organized, unfortunately. What would that say if every person that looked like you and I just didn't vote? We ain't even got to worry about a platinum plan then, because they would really be coming at you with a plutonium or some other higher grade metallic plan.
Right.
Because they would really say these people are fed up.
They're serious.
But we are not there yet mentally, because we still think folks died for us to vote. We still think a country that has redlined you, marginalized you, raped, burnt, killed, pillaged you, really give a damn about you. And I hate to say it like that, but there's a maxim of law says the methods are many, but the principles are few. There's only 7 principles a person should be governing themselves by. We've maxed out marching. We've maxed out protesting. We've maxed out.
Oh, you're going to hurt a lot of people's feelings, man.
My mama just turned 74 this year. My mama marched and prayed and sang, "We shall overcome." I can't afford to have my children inheriting my failure as a nation of people. But this is what we satisfy. But what we don't know is we commit high treason when we do protesting. That's why you can get ran over in the street and nobody's sacrificed for it in law. That's why you can be killed and nobody's being held accountable for it. We commit high treason. Your Constitution says you shall not rise up against your government. But we're doing that. And we don't understand why you can't get justice. Because you have said, as a citizen, not as the proper status in law, you've placed yourself under your state. So the state, in the state's mind, is saying, how dare you turn against me when I've given you this? But we don't read the constitutions. This little book I've had since I was in elementary school, we've long stopped reading this. We got a greater responsibility, but we don't want that responsibility. And the government knows you don't want these responsibilities. So what the government do, they treat you as a minor under law. And a minor can't say nothing against his parent. It can say something. It can buck.
Won't hold no weight.
We're the only nation of people that, and now while we have these extremists, left or right, but they are so-called white people, some of them understand that, hell, we have been lumped in with these people of color. And now they're trying to fight back for their government. And people need to really be aware. I beg this question, has the Civil War really ended? Has the Civil War really ended? If people that look like you and I get out of the way, we would probably see people like that love Trump and represent what they think he represents. And you'll see people that look like Biden. And what Biden represents, you might see them clash again if you and I get out the way.
So what are you getting at? Like, I'm not sure I follow. I don't know if I've ever heard that question asked.
Has the Civil War really ended?
They're trying to say a Civil War could be reemerging.
You've heard that said?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Antifa, these are the ones that's against the alt-right, right?
Okay.
So
Allegedly.
We don't know these things. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still looking at it and just smiling at myself on the inside. So if you got the Antifa over here and you got the alt-right over here, these folks still mad about what? But I seen a video clip. It has nothing to do with a so-called black man in America, if we get out the way, because I believe the fight may still be is who can control these people. Who can control these people of color? Is it going to be the Antifa or the alt-right? And the South, of course, if we research if we look at the history, you know, some of the question in these high halls of academia is, what were the causes of the Civil War? Was it the North was losing wealth due to free labor that the South had? Which, of course, there was an issue with the 3/5 Missouri Compromise in 1830, something like that. I don't know the exact year, where the South was trying to, again, get these mass electoral college votes. But, you know, you had to understand the South had millions of slaves. And how were these supposed to be counted? But the issue is you can't count your property as human beings because we weren't considered human beings at that particular time. So it took 3 people that look like you and I to equal 1 European slave master. So that was the process of the electoral colleges being worked in at that time. So again, was the free labor of the South, was that one of the triggers for the Civil War? The North had lost all of this industry and free labor. The South was getting rich off cotton and people that look like you and I. Could that be reemerging? I don't know. These are questions I ask myself. So, and it visualizes itself in these elections. See, they'll pander for you and I to vote, but after they've achieved that by getting our vote, what do we get? What do you get? Because tomorrow we're going to be seeing another video footage of a man being killed, maybe crying for his mama again. We may see another teenage boy that's doing something you and I did, playing with a little pop gun, and may get killed. We may lose another woman that's in her car. God forbid that happen. What this country is doing, they are violating all the rules of engagement. In war, you don't mess with the women and children. United States have killed women and children of ours, and we ain't doing nothing but praying and marching and asking for them to give us free. What I'm gonna start to say, amazing movie. I believe the people of color, and this may not be popular, but I believe we are mentally sick and dead if we allow our women and children to be killed and nothing's happening but we peacefully protesting. That's unnatural. I don't promote violence, but in natural law, you can kick a dog in the corner for so long and he'll even bite back. We're not there. We're not doing that, but
will we ever get there? You think we'll ever get there, man? After all this time,
this shouldn't even be a question to be had.
All right.
In this civilized country, the best country of the free worlds. There was an article where China had wanted to sanction United States government for crimes against humanity. The argument was United States was pointing the finger at China, and China had the nerve to say, you have no room to say anybody's doing anything foul when you are killing a nation of people without mercy. That's us. The world is looking at us because the world, by all standards, is saying, you deserve that. If you are not prepared to defend your life, you deserve what you get. That's my thought.
How can you argue? You can't argue with that. You can't argue with that sentiment because essentially regardless of what religion you are, was you're spiritual, no matter where you grew up or how you, at the end of the day, you still got to protect yourself. And you can pray and you can march.
Order of law, self-preservation. We're not prepared to preserve nothing. Our women, our children, our wealth.
What wealth?
That's another question. And that's probably why you'll never have it, because we haven't even been taught the science of business. Now we're just understanding what bankruptcy means. The bankruptcy laws have changed.
People hear bankruptcy
are now understanding, and this, I don't promote anything that you do underhanded, because I know in my heart of heart, and I know naturally I'm a decent person. I give that to every human being that walk the planet until you show me otherwise. But from a business standpoint, people of color are now understanding, bankruptcy serves a purpose. That's why you have a president who has numerous times filed bankruptcy, and he's our president, as well as a reality star. Do you think, and now the issue of his taxes, we're going all over the place with this, but I'm cool with it.
I'm definitely cool with it. You got 3 questions in my head pending.
You have a man that's holding the highest office in the land who's a habitual bankruptcy filer. And you have a man that now is under scrutiny and currently, apparently, has an open IRS case against him for tax evasion. Excuse me, I'm not going to use that word, tax avoidance, because in law, those are two beautiful.
Are we talking about the $750 story that came out?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Is there truth to this?
Well, if you look at the records that's been exposed, now he, on his own word, said that, yes, there's an open IRS case, but this is, I would look at it like this. If the United States, which is a very intelligent company, and they pride themselves off of secret intelligence and national defense. You mean to tell me this country does not know what type of person that they are allowing to hold the highest office? They know these things. But on the first election when I'm talking about our sitting President Trump, he went on the record of saying when he was under scrutiny for his taxes, he said, and I think this glazed over a lot of people, I only used the laws that were there. At that time when it was already revealed that he was almost $1 billion in a net loss. So you mean to tell me we have a person in office that we know for a fact that he's claiming almost $1 billion loss. But he so beautifully put it, I'm only using the laws that were there. We don't study these laws. These so-called white men, they have been studying these laws since this country was incepted. They wrote them. So they know every back door to walk through. We don't. We just learning that. And now people like celebrities, these men now have working towards wealth, and they can say, I like what the current president is saying now.
Like 50 Cent.
I like what the current president is saying now, because now these men have something worth protecting.
Right.
And their children are deserving of what their fathers worked for.
Like, would you call that capitalist? Some of them are being like...
Yeah, we have a capitalist president, and he's going up against globalist powers.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So a person like Biden that's the antithesis of a capitalist, he's not the best person to be riding with.
I think we can all agree with that. I think regardless of what side you're on, if you're on the side or not, I'm
on the side of trying to build a wealth for my child and getting an understanding, let me say that, learning the private side of a trust and private side of an estate and understanding what those things and the power that they hold, those are great tools for wealth building. So yeah, if there's some tax havens that's come along with a trust and an estate, I don't want no man that's telling me from the gate, I'm finna tax the hell out of that, and I will tax you back into the poorhouse. That's what a lot of us, we may get lost from, again, the circus where we see, and this man is telling you the truth, I'm finna to tax you. And we get lost because we think this man that's here now is bad for business. I think the man we have now is perfect for business.
You say people should live by 7 principles?
Well, 7 universal principles of truth. I read a book called The Kabbalion, or The Three Ruffians it's called, but it gives the beautiful, simplistic, unseen science of law. Principle of mentalism, rhythm, correspondence, polarity, gender. There's another 2 I'm missing. Cause and effect, and there's one more. But when you read the book, The Kabbalion, now these are principles that mighty men, they know. And they are absolutely scared of violating these principles. Some people call them karma. Karma is the law of correspondence working. It would be, and they put it, when I say they, I'm talking about Europeans. When I say Europeans, I'm talking about so-called white people in America. Not that I have anything against these people, but those are the ones that have these systems of supremacy well founded in this country. So these are the things that people that look like you and I, we're trying to overcome, or absolutely, in my opinion, they need to be dismantled and built aright. The book of Amos 7:7, when it said Jesus held a plumb line to see if it was stood correct, we need to make certain the foundation of things are built fair and equitable. But that was not the case. Even though some of the amendments said we're going to make certain that we can afford room for economic equality. 14th and 15th Amendment, that's what they said, but that's not what they just did or justly did. There's records out there that show that the Vietnam War, the money that was spent to fund the Vietnam War that was supposed to go to so-called people of color to give them equal footing economically. But Lyndon Baines Johnson and his administration probably thought it was better that these people never have an equal footing to challenge us or to meet us halfway on an economic standpoint, because we would probably have Black Wall Streets all over. You would probably have cities like Rosewood all over. You would probably have cities and men in Eudora, Arkansas that was killed. If you heard of Elaine Massacre,
Yes.
Not Eudora, Elaine, Arkansas.
Yep.
I believe that was 1919, where you would never want these type of men to challenge the status quo. So yeah, as we're going to give them billions of dollars so they can see us, we would never spend money with those people again. And I say those people I don't mean for it to sound so harsh, but if I can go buy my clothes from you and I can go buy my meat from somebody else that looked like us, I would not need to cross the track for anything else, unless I was going to conduct business. That's what segregation did. It killed all of the businesses that you and I had, or our forefathers had. And I believe that was well designed. That was a beautiful thing. Let's give these people segregation so they can spend their money with us. Booker T. Washington said this: at the bottom of education, at the bottom of politics, at the bottom of religion, you must have economic freedom. We don't have no control of our dollar. But the vote make us feel better. You can argue with that all you want. And again, I would say how a person treat the truth is how you should treat them. If you buck against the truth, you're not fit. So to go back to the 7 universal principles again, that was the question at hand. In the Kabbalion, they give those beautiful examples of that high science that we all should learn and should understand. But the book also says this: you have to every now and then knock off the wick of the candle so new information can come through. Have you ever seen a candle burn, and you light it over time, there's a big old black piece of soot that sits at the end of that candle and it won't burn right. You may have to flick it off. This education that we're learning now, a lot of the children behind you and now, they're not listening to this education because a beautiful mind is challenging these inconsistencies with what they may be taught at home or what they see. But now some of the books are showing that there is no such thing as slaves. They were all now indentured servants. That's a horrible, misfortunate truth that you're teaching. And again, these high-minded men or men of power, they understand these 7 universal principles. You do a just man wrong, then that statue of Lady Justice with the blindfold, she's usually holding a scale and a sword. And the only thing she can determine truth by is with her ears. And she's balancing out what she's hearing, and she's going to render justice with this sword. So the sword is called Damocles' sword. Damocles was in Greek philosophy. You can research that. But if she hears something that's not right, that sword will drop, supposedly. And it will drop on the just or the unjust. So that's what symbolism is very strong in the United States. They love symbolism. They've built their whole world around symbolism. We just don't know what those symbolisms mean. But when you come into that occult knowledge, and occult does not mean anything crazy, just mean hidden or secret. So
right.
When you come into that occult knowledge and you really look at Lady Justice again, then that may make sense. And that judge or magistrate who's dressed in all black, who represents death, and he's the theft of 2 things, either your time or your money, he's scared of that sword just dropping, and it will land on you.
You remind me of, you ready for this?
I am.
She ready for this.
She curious as all get out.
You said you heard Tyler Perry.
A lot of people say that.
You want to make a guess on just, no?
That was my only guess. If you had me to guess at that time.
Dr. Umar Johnson.
Okay.
You know him.
I've seen the brother before.
You know him?
Dr. Umar Johnson, he's the one that's recently said that we should all conserve the money that we spend for grits.
He said a lot of things.
He said a lot of things.
He said a lot of things.
I think he's saying too much.
Oh.
And I just say this in all respect for Umar. I respect him as a scholar. I respect him for his ambition for what he's wanting to do with erecting schools for young boys and girls of color or so-called color. Those are admirable ambitions, but I think he's said a lot. And I think he should probably seek the counsel of elders in the community before he start talking again.
Interesting. You've listened to him a bit?
Mm-hmm. I've listened to some of the things he's said. I think he's a brilliant brother. But the same thing that the spotlight can easily turn into an interrogation lamp. So now with his ambitions for what he wants and some of the videos that's been released, it's probably not a good look for him.
What videos are we talking about?
I think, again, the management of the funds or the proceeds that he has received for the school. So some of the video footages that he may have had doesn't promote what your ideas are. And that's all I can say about that, because, again, I don't want to come on here and lambaste anybody that looks like you and I.
Well, peace to you.
I want you to hear
so,
this,
happy to have
and I want your
graduate advisor to the NAACP chapter.
I want your take on something.
Now, if you would have had Bing Crosby, they would have given.
Let's see.
Most controversial, and that is
Okay,
that all
did-
white people are.
The 11 laws of white supremacy.
The 11 laws of white supremacy.
The 11 laws of white supremacy.
Are the most important. Rule number 1, and I guess it's the rule that most people find most controversial, and that is that all white people are racist. And when you say that all white people are racist, a lot of black people look at you crazy. A lot of white people look at you crazy. But I like to explain exactly what I mean by that. Racism is a group system that is created and implemented by an entire group. Everybody participates.
Facts.
And that system is designed to disadvantage all members of another group. All of them are affected by racism. In other words, whether you're Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, Jay-Z, Bob Johnson, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Minister Farrakhan, racism affects all black people, irregardless of education, status, class, or wealth. Well, if it impacts all black people, regardless of who they are, then it must also benefit all white people, regardless of who they are. And so white people will argue that I'm not a racist. My ancestors didn't own slaves. I've never done anything to black people. So, okay, although I would probably debate the authenticity of that claim, but let's assume it's true for the sake of conversation. You are not guilty of committing any crime against black people, but you are nonetheless guilty of omission, which means you didn't commit a crime, but you did not stop none either. In other words, you may not have participated in police genocide, but you turn a blind eye to it. You may not be miseducating black children, but you will turn a blind eye to it. And furthermore, by virtue of police genocide, by virtue of miseducation, by virtue of mass incarceration, by virtue of gentrification, you receive privileges as a white person that are directly attributable to the disadvantages that are imposed upon blacks. So all white folk benefit from the oppression of black people.
So again, when he says things like that, that's why I have to respect him, because you're now using your platform to absolutely speak truth to power. Power is the system of supremacy that we're now facing, where people may not say that my people didn't own slaves. You can say, I didn't contribute to these things, but you're not denying or rejecting being a benefactor of those things. You don't have to work now, because the system that your forefathers have already built, you can just walk through and gather these things. Whereas the people that look like myself, we're still suffering from that, unspoken. But again, he tapped on and said the one thing: education. I'm a strong proponent of right knowledge. Dr. Francis.
Is that not subjective? What does it mean, right knowledge?
Right knowledge is truth. There's no other version to truth.
But you have people who say nothing's absolute. So you say truth, what's considered true?
For me, truth is what I can see and what I can touch.
Okay.
That's truth.
The tangible thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't want to get into this whole mental masturbation of these abstract, absolute things and that. Not to discredit what you're saying, but
Chris James and I kind of got into that, and it turned into a rabbit hole.
That's right. And I'm not trying to do that. As a man who lived this and see this, it's easy for me to identify systems of supremacy. Now we got a lot of gamers. I hate to say this, but I have to say this because it was funny. Nicolette and I was riding down the road. A beautiful young Caucasian woman was sitting on the side of the road with a help me sign, give me some money sign. And you know what, Nicolette and I had the same thought of saying, this is just us. I'm going to let you into our private thoughts here. That is a waste of white skin. If a young white woman, let me not get too loud in the mic, if a young white woman, very capable, don't have to work, you going to hold a sign and say, help me, give me something.
D.L. Hughley said something similar to this. He said, if you are so-called white and poor, and I believe he said this in 2018, then you have wasted, he didn't say white skin, he said your white privilege. And there's a reason why I just played this clip. So this is a very interesting spot for me because like many things, even when I hear like the Nick Cannon, man, we just keep digressing. The Nick Cannon and Professor Griff conversation. Did you hear about that controversy?
I did.
Did you hear about this? All right. So Professor Griff have been saying these things for many, many years back in Public Enemy days. That's something that's supposed to benefit me. Like the information is supposed to uplift me and tell me about how our people are the Aboriginal people, which I do believe, and how black people this and white people this. But even information like that, before I hear something, or before I choose to accept something that I hear, I like to get the information before I accept it, even if it's something that's supposed to uplift me.
You should research it.
Research is so, and I've talked about this many episodes about how research, especially in our community, is so undervalued. It's not done enough. It's underused. And so when I hear something like all white people are racist, it's such a hot take because when I hear it, I want to think, what does racist mean then? Because we have to think about what does racist mean. We have to identify that. Because I have a lot of close friends and people I see as family and people who are good to me who just happen to be so-called white. I would never consider them right now. I can have a friend, and if I feel like they have racist ways, which I've done this several times, I'll let them know that I feel like you have racist ways. We can still be friends and cordial, but I recognize how you act in certain environments. I recognize how you change when we talk about this. I recognize how you didn't speak up when this happened. Oh, no, I'm that. But I also have friends who I know will speak up. Now, if it's genuine or not, you debate that. I don't know. But I know if I see something, or if I've never seen something that gives me reason to believe that you have racist roots, then I won't jump to that conclusion because I think what can happen, and you can feel free to correct me here. I think when you do something like that, it's extremely dangerous because it kind of flips. Because when you look at the oppression of so-called black people for so many years, and you want to look at the origin of why this has been and why people hate us so much when we ain't never did nothing to nobody, a lot of people want to flip it and say, oh, it's not because we're this. It's really because you're this. And that's what Professor Griff and Nick Cannon kind of got into, and D.L. Hughley has gotten into, calling so-called white people savages and things like they are the true savages. And I think when we get into things like that, it can become extremely dangerous because I don't think the answer to figuring out why oppression is or why it's been happening for so long, I don't think the answer to that is flipping it and saying that we should oppress somebody else.
Oh, no, never that. That's not, I don't think that's our aim as a people to go and reverse this and to now become the oppressor, the thing that we very much so despise and detest.
Okay.
Professor Griff, and again, I consider him an elder in this knowledge with the truth, as you said, that he consider us the Aboriginal. I think Professor Griff, that man has been sojourning for a very long time for this cause. And I have a lot of respect for him because he respects us as Moors and understand and know who we are as Moors.
I hear a but coming.
No, it's no but.
Okay.
Nick Cannon, I think that is a young brother right there that's also trying to sojourn on the quest for truth. I hate that he backtracked what he said. But again, when a man backtracked what he said, that shows me that he's not certain of the truth that he's come upon. So when you do know for your heart of heart and you've researched these things out thoroughly from end to beginning, then there's no need for me to backtrack my words. I'm absolute on my words, if that's the word we use.
Okay.
And I don't even want to talk on D.L. Hughley. I love and respect him and his platform. For a person She stated, he said, I didn't hear this myself. If he's considering white people savages, well, he's definitely sound like he's promoting one for office, which is probably the worst, if we want to use the term savage, to hold the highest office in the land. But again, these are just things that we see as a people. I have to go back to the systems of supremacy and racism. The late Dr. Frances Crushing Welsh, she said these are all institutions that we are facing racism in: law, economics, entertainment.
You got people that believe that those things don't exist.
Yeah, though it's everywhere, because we're now, the generation now does not see this because of the commingling of the races now, where we sit next door, we live next door to them, so it's hard to see that. But it's one beautiful example is redlining, that people think has gone away, and redlining is the institution of racism, of marginalizing a person of color, you and myself, in real estate purchase. You know, we may not think, because some of us are in these affluent neighborhoods, just the fact that some of us are trying to get approved for a loan. Now, I've never been homeless since I left my mother's and my father's home, but it's very difficult for me to prove to somebody on paper that I can afford to stay in this house. That's crazy. I don't think that opportunity is given to people that look like you and I when it comes to something so simple as getting approved for a loan for a home. Everybody should have shelter. That's a real bad one that's existing today.
I agree.
That's an article that a young lady in Chicago, a nice affluent neighborhood, she had 2 different appraisals for her property. A blind appraiser showed the house was at upwards of $300,000. Once they figured out who she was, her property value was $180,000, just off of seeing who she was. Same home, same community, 2 different people's analyzing her property. That still exists today. Now, of course, we knew these things was happening in the Eisenhower administration, because they were blatantly giving out homes to, Europeans, and a few that got through with GI bills that was men of color that served in the war. It was a struggle for them to penetrate these neighborhoods that they wanted to provide a better home for their children and wife. Now, it's not so prevalent as it was during the Eisenhower administration, but yeah, redlining is very, very real still.
Oh yeah,
that's just one system of supremacy.
And I agree with that. 100%. I think that's one of the highest ones, as you were saying. That's one of the most prominent ones that a lot of people
we glaze over. And again, I don't call it racism, because now this thing is so ingrained, it's so systemic and systematic in the United States.
Right.
It's not racism. We are fighting a system of supremacy that must be dismantled. That's what must be dismantled, not racism. I'm not worried about racist cops. I know how to handle them.
Right.
Because when I see them coming, again, I used to carry a firearm with me, or a weapon, or as what the Constitution say, an arm. But understanding the 7 universal principles of truth, I no longer carry my firearm with me, because I do now understand the power of the law of polarity. The law of polarity is this: just as much as you love something, you can turn right around and hate it. This is the polar opposite.
Okay.
Extreme, you have extreme heat, extreme cold. This is the science that we need to understand as people of color, that we've been kept out of. You need to understand how to manifest these powers. And at being, as you said, Professor Griff said, we're the Aboriginal, or the first ones to touch this terraplane or land. There's an automatic power that we hold. The book says this. When I say the book, I'm talking about the Bible here. The book says, at your left hand, 10,000 shall fall, and at your right hand, another 10,000. We don't have to fight this war with no weapons if we really don't want to. This may sound crazy to some, but high-minded men and women that study high science, and those are your adversaries included, they don't ever want you to fight that war that's not carnal, because the weapons of mass destruction, they can obliterate us with that, but they don't want you to tap into your unspoken power. That would unseat them automatically. That would dismantle this system automatically of supremacy. So yeah, the universal law of polarity, that's something, again, that we should really read, those 7 universal principles of truth. And I have to admit, I don't share this information with a lot of people because of the power of it. A lot of people get mixed up with the 48 Laws of Power. That's a beautiful book if you want to go somewhere else with it. Some people say that's considered a little darker wisdom. You have people like
I've heard that.
Aleister Crowley. He was one of the people that practiced the dark arts of magic. And again, this is nothing I'm pulling out the woodwork. You have legislation that says that the United States government respect the magical arts of people. I don't have the House resolution now, but these are all things that you can Google. These are all things that you can research on the Library of Congress. They know your history. They know my history. We don't. We don't know our true, deep, beautiful truth of history. Not no version of it.
All right.
Not no other derivative of it. That's why education has always been a proponent that's been auctioned off, if you will. When I was younger, I used to watch AETN, now the PBS public broadcasting station. But at the end of every broadcast, they used to make this announcement. This program was brought to you by such and such foundation. This program was brought to you by such and such foundation. Do you know that people would pay millions of dollars to say, I want to control the education? So if I can control the education through system of supremacy, I can tell them a lie and they'll think it's the truth. That's what has to go away. Not racism. I can handle racism. I need your system of supremacy of miseducating me. That has to go away.
And the rest is negotiable. I'm with you.
That has to go away. And this is my motto as a so-called black man in America. White man, so-called white man, just move out of my way and I can chart my own course to righteousness. But there's been a gamble, man, a huge bet. The odds have just been stacked so. And when I say a system of supremacy, when things are done to our detriment, they're not just done on an increment of years. They do something with the intent for it to last a century, 100 years. So if I mess up the education now, I'm already assured that the next 100 years, they won't find their way out of this. Again, if things are put out of sequence, truth, things, if the truth is put for you to decipher out of sequence, you'll never find the truth because you don't even know what to look for. We don't know that the money.
That's so damn.
We don't know that
goodness,
money
man.
for the Vietnam War was supposed to go to your grandfather.
Which I've heard this before, by the way.
You don't know that. But that's why now information through their website are now declassified. And even if you go, some of the information may be redacted. So you don't even know what you're looking at.
All right.
You have to get a triangulation of sources. You know, the newspapers used to be beautiful. The media used to be beautiful. But now the media has been compromised where, you know, Trump say fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. You have to give them some credence to that. Fake news.
All right. So this is going to be a great segue from you talk about polarity and how you don't carry your firearm. And you talk about Trump. So I'm going to use all of that to try to segue into something I'd like to ask you about, something we originally started the episode off. But before I do, I just want to say, because I don't think I ever said it, I don't 100% condone what the audio that I played from Dr. Umar Johnson. I don't know that to be true. As of this moment, I do not believe that all so-called white people are racist. I just want to put that out there because I did play the audio and I don't want that to be taken as if I'm saying that.
Right,
no, I'm playing an audio from a scholar, from a doctor who said this very controversial statement. And I wanted it to be a debate with a very intelligent brother, and I wanted his take on it. So I want to put that out there. I do not agree with the audio. So again, they said this may be the most important election of our lifetime. You do not believe this to be so. I did not expect you to say that, to be honest. Do you think if any other time in our life, do you think this may be the most important time following an election, regardless of who is quote unquote elected? This may be the most important time to have a firearm. Because I'm 26. Mm-hmm. I've never in my life been asked by so many other loved ones if I had a firearm. I've been called by friends, text by people. Had somebody video called me the other day. He's like, yeah, Diddy, friend live in Jonesboro. We just catching up. He's like, yeah, my boy. So you election, bro, next week. And I said, yeah, I know, man. Like, again, I go to the Clinton school, bro. They won't shut up about it. Like, Biden Harris this, Biden Harris that, Biden Harris, Biden Harris. And he's like, yeah, so did you ever get that? And I was like, we talked months ago. And I'm like, a gun? And he was like, yeah, did you ever get one? I said, bro, I still ain't got the gun. He said, Didi, I'm going to need you to get you one, bro.
That's a beautiful right to be able to defend yourself. I have, for my home protection, of course, but as I just meander out in the streets and I'm on my travels in the world, I feel like I don't need one. Even if I encounter these so-called law enforcement officers, I don't need one because, again, I'm respecting them, even though I understand the so-called police officer, I consider them security guards in my mind.
A lot of people consider
they're nothing more than security guards in my mind because they are protecting their municipalities, their corporations. So, and when I was younger, my grandfather and I used to watch Westerns. And when there was an issue, I think I may have shared this with you before, but for the listeners, we need to think simplistic again. In Pulaski County, the only law that should be recognized is a sheriff. And outside of a sheriff is a U.S. Marshal for the United States federal government. But in Pulaski County, you have a Little Rock, you have a North Little Rock, you have a Kamak Village, you have a Jacksonville, you have a Sherwood, those are 5 different security guards in Pulaski County alone. So they're only protecting the interests for the business of Little Rock, North Little Rock, Jacksonville, Kamak Village, Sherwood, and they won't cross them lines now. And I love this time now because of the current president. Those entities used to commingle to make certain that their system of supremacy is working. If you got in trouble in Little Rock and you was caught in Jacksonville was going to make certain that they got you with Little Rock. But now the beautiful system's being dismantled and we don't even see this. If you get caught over here and you got trouble over there, well, they're not going to make it their business to inconvenience their business to help that business. I think we really should take advantage of the chaos. I'm going to say that. But we are so ready to throw ourselves back into supremacy because of a sick mind. When you're dealing with a mentally distraught or mental trauma person, you can do whatever to them. And Dr. Joy DeGruy, I talk, and please put me back in if I'm getting off reins. Dr. Joy DeGruy, she have a beautiful lecture of post-traumatic slave disorder. That's what people like you and I, we suffer from. If you don't have your righteous mind. A lot of the voters that's gung-ho on voting, they don't have a righteous mind. They have a mind.
Wait, say it again. All the what?
All the voters, they don't have a righteous mind. And I'm not saying this to downcast anybody. If you're ready to throw on which white boy to govern over you, you still shot out.
I'm going to be devil's advocate here. So what do you say, Hassan, to somebody who says, no. It ain't about voting for another white man to be over me. It's about voting for the lesser of two evils. Wait, I'm not done. Okay. It's about my favorite one, getting on a path towards where we should be. Trump is going to take us away from that. Biden, yes, we all can agree that Biden is not the best choice for several reasons. But at least if we vote for Biden, we'll be closer in the direction or pointed or headed in the direction that we want to be. It's not that we want him and we expect him to do what we need to get done. We don't expect his plan to work. We don't expect the platinum plan to work. But if you vote for Biden, it puts us on the path to where I've been hearing that for years. I'm only 26. I've been hearing that for years.
This is what I say. So I have to look at the tenure of Biden on Capitol Hill and all of his acolytes.
47 years.
I have to look at the tenure of Congressman Schumer. I have to look at the tenure of Congresswoman Pelosi. And I have to look at the tenure of even Auntie Maxine that's been on Capitol Hill. And you all have made a career and you've also been complicit in this system. that has been to my detriment. And then I have to look at the new boy on the hill that's been there 4 years, and he's the adversary.
Oh my goodness, you preaching to me, man.
I'm just saying, are we really thinking here? Now, here's people that's been there almost, and they proudly
Decades.
say this. We have a collective total of almost 250 years of experience. Well, if I go do the math on that, if your collective experience, that'll throw me right back at a time that was very horrible for me. Collectively, that's what they said. But I understand 40 years for this person, 40 years for that person. But y'all gonna demonize the boy that's been there for 4 years? Let's look at, again, if I'm just using my little mind,
Yep.
I cannot say
Easy
that
math.
he's the problem when I can say that you have been there. And I have to say this for Biden, and an apology won't do. Your
I was gonna
co-signing
say, yeah.
of the crime bill of 1994.
Very convenient. Very convenient
Your-
time. And he sits
your-
down in this chair and he
An
stutters
apology
his...
does not do it for me.
It's
An
politics,
apology
man.
doesn't do
And we all know it. If you don't see that that's politics, that he sits down now, after all these years, after what he did in the 90s, and he explained it. He called himself... Did you watch the entire thing? He called himself explaining...
Are we talking about the first debate or the second debate?
Neither debate.
Okay.
We're talking about Biden.
Just talking in general about the
he had an
crime
interview.
bill.
He sat down and he apologized because he know this is something that's been talked about. And he sat down and he explained how the bill was actually, and I don't want to misquote him. He said something along the lines of the bill was actually it was meant for everybody. The bill was meant to subjugate all men. It wasn't just like for men of color. He said what ended up happening was he just got into the politics of it all. He said how it ended up being, in the grand scheme of things, it ended up being more so-called black men that were locked up. But there were several other people who were, who fell, quote unquote, victim to this bill.
I would say
The
that's a
narrative
lie.
that was pushed was that it
That's
was
a lie.
okay.
And I'm going to say this. I hate to cut you off on this.
No,
but
you good.
Again, when we're talking about a system of supremacy that we are, there are there are judges or magistrates that have went on the record of saying that we were giving edicts, we were giving directives to make certain that men of color were disproportionately incarcerated than any other race.
Which, by the way, it wasn't just a bill that was. A lot of people had to sign off on this bill, and they've seen a lot
we're
of
not
so-called.
talking about the bill now. We're talking we're talking about directives coming from on high to those other men and women that support the system. So you got the bill passing and you got information funneling down in the judicial system where these judges were told, you all need to make certain that, and to covertly put it, you need to capture this many people to be incarcerated. Because now you understand we're a military industrial complex now. So in order to get the proceeds, it's all about the money. In order to get the money that you can get, you need to capture as many people and throw them in jail. So if I'm sitting on the bench as a judge, you look easy to throw away to me.
Easy.
Yeah, you look expendable.
All right.
As a black man, I don't even care what your lawyers say or what the defense is. And even there's some beautiful evidence that can exonerate you or get you off completely. I don't give a damn. I just need you to make certain you're out of society. Next, another one, you're out of society. These are directives that these people that sit on the bench have. Some of them are beautiful enough in their heart, or the law of correspondence or the universal laws have touched them, and now they feel guilty.
And they
say,
come out
oh
and say
yeah,
this.
we disproportionately, we racked them up and threw them away. That's the system of supremacy. So now you have the bill, you have the men and women that sit on the bench, and now they're funneling information in the 90s where it was like, corral everybody in that neighborhood or the ghetto. Don't even worry about coming out here where houses are being burned or, it's funny, but it's not. So you have, and you can research the story, nice affluent neighborhood in Little Rock. A European man or a white man, he burns up his house for insurance fraud, an attempt to try and kill his wife.
Wait, so you gotta slow down here. That was a lot.
Yeah, it was. But this,
hold on.
There was
It was proven.
Yes.
Before we continue with this, because you say he burned it down, allegedly, or this is proven that he burned it down. Okay.
And it was later found out that it was insurance fraud. But there was no issue of him being thrown away in society, that is a heinous thing. Because in your heart of heart, your intent ain't no good. Your intent is to cheat and kill some people that you love for the gain of money.
Was he unsuccessful in the?
Yeah, it was found out in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. You can Google the
I'm
story.
saying his wife. Like his wife wasn't killed or anything
No,
like that. Okay.
the whole thing was just foiled.
Wow.
But it's funny to see the disproportionate. You would expect that person to get put away for a very long
It's a
time.
given, but it's not a given.
Not a given. You make 6 months probation. That's the response. You commit the same offense, 100 years, man, just because that is so horrible. Get him out of society. These are directives that come from that crime bill. For me, that's unforgivable because you sanction the imprisonment of a people. You didn't care how it was done. I'm going to give you the money if you meet these standards. Here's the information coming here. The judges and the prosecutor's attorney funnel that information down to police chiefs. Police chiefs say, let's just dragnet the whole community and put them in these places. This is provable stuff. I don't pull this information out of thin air. And we would say that Joe Biden is on the path of righteousness for us. That's insane. I'll vote.
Why do you think Barack Obama endorses him? Because they were running mates?
Barack Obama is a brilliant constitutionalist student.
Man, there's a big but coming.
I cannot say nothing against the brother. Right or wrong or indifferent. I respect him for the fact that he does not acknowledge to be black because I think he understands what that label means in law. That's why there's a difference between black and white because it's a legal status. And as a constitutionalist, I don't want to be marginalized or placed into this less than category. He's went on the Tom Joyner show, and I'll never forget the day I heard him say this. It was very interesting when he was newly elected, and he had his interview with Tom Joyner Morning Show, and Tom Joyner said, "How does it feel to be the first black president?" Barack Obama's response was, "Tom, I'm not black. I don't consider myself black. Black has no standing at law." There was a very awkward silence on radio. That's a no-no. And then he glazed right over Tom Joyner. Okay, well, let's talk about something else. But that was, I think, to release, and you can Google this information, Tom Joyner has not re-released that recording, but it was said, and I was on my way to work that time.
Wait, what? So I can't find this?
You can Google it.
Can the listeners find this?
I think that one's been archived intentionally. But those that heard it, they heard it, and there's quotes of what was said, but you'll never be. I don't think you'll
can't
ever
find the
see
audio transcript.
The audio may not, and you could. And he's since retired. Tom Joyner, of course, he's getting older, has gotten older, but I don't think that audio will resurface in our generation. But I heard that with my ears.
This is the first time I heard this.
Oh yeah, that was very important. And again, I think to reduce karmic debt, or to reduce those repercussions or the swing of the pendulum, you have to give the people the truth and let them decide what they want to do with truth.
So are we thinking that things could get crazy after the election or no?
Not for me. I don't know what it's going to look like for the masses of people. They may allow themselves to get into a frenzy, but I mean, I'm a part of this world, but I ain't of this world.
Well, you could be not of this world, but if you're in this world, you can get caught in the crossfire.
I don't think I will. I don't think I'll be a collateral damage in all of this.
Do you say this because you think you'll stay out the way? Are you saying this because you don't think things will get that bad? You have people who I mean, like, and these may be extremists, man, but you have people who think that things could get so crazy that they could be on the brink of like a civil or racial war. Like you have many, many people, not just your everyday people, right? You have your quote unquote educated people, right? Because those are the people who are, their opinions are respected a lot more. If you have those letters after your name, or if you got rapper or musician attached to your name.
All of that means nothing.
All of that means nothing, but we know how it's portrayed.
The dollar
right?
in your pocket, that's what affords you the privilege. Ice Cube said this, oh my goodness, I can't get the quote right, when he was interviewed by CNN, and he was like, something to the effect of the dollar affords you better privilege.
Right, because he was talking about it shouldn't matter. Because again, like, oh my goodness, we're gonna digress so much, man. Because we could talk about a lot of that, the contract what is it called? The contract to Black America. It's a high split.
Which one? The platinum deal we talking about?
No. Ice Cube's thing that he put together. The contract to Black America.
I don't know the title of what.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Presented to one of the presidential candidates' campaign, or one of the.
It was presented to. It was actually presented to both.
It was.
It was presented to both.
But only one responded.
Both responded. The Democratic Party told him that they like what he have in mind, but come holler back at them after election. The other party told them, well, listen, we like what you're doing. We think we can implement some of your things into the platinum plan. Obviously, that was spun, and it was said that Ice Cube endorsed the platinum plan when that's not actually what he did.
Right.
But yeah, that's a whole nother question. So you don't think things will get that crazy?
I don't think we'll get into nothing more crazy than what we've already seen, man. We've seen some pretty crazy things already.
Interesting. I don't normally get caught up in hype, but I with this right here, I'll say I don't know. I honestly don't know, man. Because when I see a Trump flag, when I see Trump supporters, quote unquote, I understand other people see racist. Mm-hmm. First thing they come to mind, like that's almost synonymous to the Confederate flag. And a lot of times they have them right there beside each other, right? Again, I don't automatically think I think a lot of them are racist. I think that's not necessarily what Trump stands for. I truly and honestly don't. I think Trump has racist ways? Yes, I do. I think Trump's a businessman. I can't say it enough. I think he's a businessman. But I think his followers, and I think J. Cole said it so well in one of his verses. He said Trump taking advantage of poor white folks, and a lot of them don't even understand it, because a lot of them are racist, and they think because of the narrative that's being pushed within the media, right, that he's for us, and this is a lot of times he's against you, man. Like he's probably more, and we kind of touched on this earlier. I think Trump kind of is more of a promoter for people, for rich so-called black people who don't look anything like poor white people. I think he's for them, rich so-called black people, than he are for poor so-called white people. But I don't think a lot of them understands that. That's my take. That's my opinion. So when you say that things could potentially get crazy after election, I do believe that there's some truth to that.
No, I don't think it's going to get no worse or no better after the election. That was my position on it. It's going to remain the same. That's my opinion.
Stand back and stand by.
That's not what I'm saying. But it's not what I'm saying at all.
That's what Trump said.
Those are the words of
what does that mean? Why do you say that in a debate?
I have to say that.
What sense does that make?
The president is not the most eloquent speaker. I have to say that.
Stand back and stand by?
He's not the most eloquent speaker.
The leader of the free world.
We all witnessed it. He was stop, stand back and stand by. I was like, okay, doesn't mean much to me because it won't affect me.
He's like, stand back, stand by.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's a bumbling, just a bumblefuck of words to use artist. He cannot articulate pretty well. I'm not judging him on his skills speaker. As an orator. I like his business savvy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like his business savvy.
This is all dollars and cents. I'm trying to get to that point where I can create dollars and cents or something greater for my family. That's what I aspire to. Everything else, man, is whimsical nonsense to me.
You have these thick books over here.
Yes,
and we can't let these books go to waste.
Okay. Again, because we talked about so much, I think one of the points we were talking about was jurisprudence.
Yep.
Jurisprudence is the sign to read what it says in the dictionary. And this is
give it to me. Let me hear it.
This is the Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Very, very sought after book. There's other different versions of it. And this is a book that's that thick. These are all law terms. A lot of it may be Latin, but
I've never seen this book before.
Yeah,
I never heard of this book.
That's used against you in a court of law. They tell you what you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So I love dictionaries. The older the better, but we need to understand what jurisprudence is. And jurisprudence is the philosophy of law or the science which treats the principles of positive law and legal relations. So when we study law, which we've gotten away from so long ago, when you understand the bedrock of truth, when you come to dealing with yourself and their system of supremacy, that's what's hard for them to execute you under. But now we're dealing with a rogue system, judicial system, that you can give these magistrates or magicians, or we call them judges. They'll see the truth and they'll still go contrary to the truth, because now you have these people now that were yesteryear they were Klans members. We don't see them walking around with sheets.
Absolutely not.
So now they've
disguises.
already changed the game.
Okay.
And I was just to dovetail what I was going to say earlier, to show you a system of supremacy. And I made the point, when the move is made in this system, is to last 100 years, to walk you through what happened. After Emancipation Proclamation, you had so-called free men and women. But your system was already working in place where they had the black code laws or the black Christian codes or the peonage laws, where now you're no longer in the field. The system said, well, hold up. Now we just got so-called free Negroes walking around. Let's give them a vagrancy charge. So if you're just walking around without a paper to say I have a job, you go get locked up on a convict farm or the penitentiary. And they would lease you out back to your former slave master, and they would rent you out, which they call convict leasing. So you got emancipation, you got convict leasing. That don't work. We figured that out, some of the abolitionists of the time. Let's change the system again. So now they have the Jim Crow laws. So now you have this whole separation thing, but we still getting killed from emancipation to Jim Crow. Now, after Jim Crow, you have this new system, what we'll give it the crime bill as the landmark point. Now they can say, we gonna find a way to keep these people still enslaved. A beautiful book, Michelle Alexander, The New Jim Crow and the Age of Colorblindness. She walked through that whole timeline of how your adversaries have always been 100 years ahead of you. Right when you think you're coming out to see the light, you already got a new system to keep you subjugated again. But we don't understand that. So as a Moor, and people need to understand, we just getting back down to the basics of who we are before we lost our righteous mind. Understanding jurisprudence, if you have to go into the system, court system. See, that's why I say, I don't worry about these police officers being gunned down, because I'm understanding and operating on a different mindset. I understand that these police officers have a nightstick, they have a taser, they have a sidearm, and they have a rifle. Somebody has given them a lot of authority to kill. I respect that. I don't have to qualm. I ain't got no qualm with you. Give me the citation or arrest me. Just let me get in front of your big brother or the judge, because I know y'all all working together. And when I get in front of that judge or that magistrate or that magician, I know how to handle myself in front of him. That's what we need to learn. That'll keep or prevent some of us from getting killed in this war when we encounter these security guards, or y'all call police officers. We have to teach our men and women how to handle that, up to the point of saving yourself by any means necessary. But are we mentally prepared there? Because another system is religion that we've been mentally traumatized with through imagery.
A lot of people not gonna be ready for this segue.
That's fine. But again, we have that law book, and I have to show this one too, because the book is titled Papal Sin, a great book. And one thing that the book talks about in the Catholic Church, Catholicism, the church, it talks about the how women are treated in the Catholic Church, and it also, of course, talks about that dirty little thing of the molestation in the Catholic Church. But and I knew this monk when I was in grade school, the name, or maybe junior high, Thomas Aquinas, but I got to read this caption out of there. And I had just had a court case, and it showed me how you can present the truth and how they may buck it, or how they may succumb or yield to the truth. But Thomas Aquinas said this.
Say it to the mic for me.
There is such a thing as cultivated ignorance, ignorantia affectata, an ignorance so useful that one protects it, keeps it from the light in order to continue using it. This kind of ignorance is not exculpatory, but inculpatory. It is a willed ignorance, though an unconfessed one, certainly in a time that demands intellectual honesty with special emphasis. To remain oblivious to the most basic questions concerning dishonesty is to disqualify oneself from serious exchange with one's peers. That's what Thomas Aquinas said about ignorantia affectata, Latin term. But you need to be able, if you can't yield to the truth, you really shouldn't be participating in nothing, no more ever, when it comes to a standard of operating in a judicial system. So again, that speaks of one vital piece that must be reorganized. Judges in the judicial system, they really need, that's why there's a big fight over, the lady that's just been.
Yeah, because you know what they're
Those are
saying.
very good pieces of a system.
They're saying she could get rid of, what is it, Roe versus Wade, and take away a lot of.
Roe versus Wade ain't the issue. It's other issues. See, I have no problem. I think the Roe versus Wade, that's the abortion issue, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Okay. I don't care about that. I'm bigger thinking than that. But the premise.
You're not saying you don't care about the argument about abortion.
Yeah, I don't care about that. What a woman decides to do, I have no right.
I want to clear that up.
I'm going to say this.
We
in my house, I cherish everything I make. So an option of getting rid of it, it's not mine, but I'm definitely not going to be talking about you need to. I'm not going to be planting the seed of thought of we don't need this because we made this. We intentionally did this. I want this. Now, of course, there may be some other issues that people would justify it being okay, but an extinguish of life is never okay with me unless it's righteous. So that's why that Supreme Court justice is very paramount, because if you have the right people in place to continue to hold up this system,
because it's pretty much all conservative, right?
Yeah.
That
don't look good for the other side.
Right.
It don't really matter to me, but we got those. That's on a federal level, but we have those judges and magistrates on local smaller courts that really shouldn't even be there because they're complicit with this system. It's sad when you walk into the gallery of a courtroom and the guy that's sitting on the bench, his father's there, his grandfather's there. Where's the equality in that? This is in courtrooms. Sherwood Court, to be exact. Sherwood, they have the guy sitting there and he got his father proud. And those men in that courtroom, they are amazingly brutal. They are old ones too. And when it first happened to me, all I felt was like, oh my God, this is like antebellum South up in here. I love it though.
What'd you experience, to be exact?
Okay, I had a court case up in there and just trying to present the truth to this man. They don't want to hear this.
What do you mean trying? Like, did you have a book or something?
No,
I'm
putting spirit of truth on this matter. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Look, if you come up in here too much, this is not a fair and public hearing when you can tell people you can't come in here. Now I understand the judge have the prerogative right to close the court, but we talking about just normal open court. You can only come in, your person can't come in with you. If you really ever experience Sherwood Court, it really have it set up like a slaughterhouse. You're lined up against a wall, you're marched around in front of that magistrate, and you walked out after he executes you. And next, it's a sick-looking system. But it's a system nobody is interested in. There was an article about this magistrate. It was called Blood from a Stone in the Arkansas Times. The article was about this particular magistrate and his wife, because apparently all hot check issues go through Sherwood Court. There was a particular issue with a $200 fine ended up turning into $2,000 fine. And anybody that was on probation, you had to go through, get an ankle monitor. And the ankle monitor was set up by a company his wife ran. So it was a racket. He went to court for it, and of course he was exonerated. He know people in good places. But for you to be even under scrutiny, you're supposed to be a man above reproach in this position, but you're under these allegations of possible racketeering. The whole system is racketeering. And this system is so hypocritical. You would try and form RICO laws, racketeering, incorrupt organization charges, they did that for the mobs back in the day.
All right. That's why they were created. Yep.
Mm-hmm. But these systems, they operate just like a mob. And this is what we're voting to be a part of. It's crazy, but
You say, but in response to voting, let's do this before we segue from law into religion.
ooh, okay.
Instead of voting, people should do what?
I suggest this. My ideas are very extreme. I love the local election and the people of color that are absolutely interested in holding his office. They deserve a shot from me. But I play with the idea, what would it look like if we all said we're not going to participate?
Yep.
Oh, then the people that you don't want to get in there get in. So what? Some of them getting in here now, ain't nothing changed. But what would it look like if we decided and was organized enough to say, we're not going to vote? They don't deserve it. Neither side. We've never tried that. Have you heard it?
No, I haven't never tried that, but the
But again-
opposition to that actually that you just presented actually makes sense. It says, so it's like, now if you said, what if we don't spend our money? That's different. If we hold our money and we don't spend our money with these business, that's a different conversation about different things. But I'm just saying, if we were to not spend our money, then that speaks volumes. If we held our money and we put our money into our own businesses or created our own, that's different. But if you tell somebody not to vote, because I never tell someone not to vote, right? I just tell you to be wise about your approach when it comes to voting. I'll put it that way. But when you tell somebody not to vote and the results still end up the same.
When has it served us by voting?
Right. I agree with that. But not voting changes what?
It's going to probably shift the focus to you where you'll be more readily be able to get what you ask for.
Why would somebody try to give you what you asked for?
Because the census is this now. The Little Rock mayor has went on the record of saying it's very important for your census. Every person is worth X amount of thousands of dollars.
All right.
It's all about the money.
All right.
Follow the money. That's why census is so important for these municipal cities to say how many of these people we have in our possession, because we are minors in law, believe it or not. So how much money we finna get for each minor child we have, and we finna induce them or persuade them to vote. Okay, stop voting and stop participating in all of their fashions of supremacy. For me, it's simple. Quit playing their game. We are absolutely playing their game. How would it help us? We don't know. We ain't never tried it. Remember, the methods are many. The principles are few. We need to get their attention first, I believe.
Yeah.
Then they maybe say, well, what happened? A damn black person voted. We need to find out what they're doing. Because we need to be in their business.
Yeah.
Certain things, man. Well, again, this would require an amazing amount of organization for us to galvanize to be able to orchestrate that. This is just an idea for me. That's why I say I know we have people that will kill you or be ready to fight you for the image of a Caucasian Jesus. They're not ready for that idea of not voting and playing in their game. So I know that when you can't distinguish what oppression look like in an image in religion, you sure enough don't know what a political play look like. So,
Do you think religion, as people know it today, is used against them?
yes.
In what way? I mean, that was a given question. I think the answer is definitely
yes. We
yes.
do not read in the book of Revelation that gives a description of a man. It does not look like the image of Caesar Borgia that we have on grandmother wall and grandmother before her wall.
Oh, you mean the Caucasian Jew?
Yeah.
Or the Caucasian person with the blue eyes and long black
and the
hair?
beautiful Hawaiian silky perm. That's an image of mental distraught where that is your image of what your savior looked like. He resembles a lot of what your oppressor looked like in the real world. So
What a coincidence.
it's hard for you to extinguish your oppressor if he looked like your savior at the same time. That was well designed, and that was from the Catholic Church organized in the order of Christendom, not Christianity, in 1300s by the Catholic Church. That was designed. That was a very well thought out plan. Again, they do things to last 100 years. Here we are. That was 1300. We're into the year of our Lord 2020.
Right. Hassan, I think what we have to do is give the originators, the fathers of this system, of everything they put together, props and credit. They've done a heck of a job, man. Like the position that we're in, the oppression that we've been held under for years is...
Some people say we better off.
It's astounding to me, man, that so many things still have not changed. And when you talk about religion, it's like that's at the step. For me personally, that's like one of the things that's sitting at the top of the mountain, man, because you bring up religion, it's so hard because a lot of this stuff people feel like you can't see, you can't experience, you can't quote unquote know until after life. So as long as you're here, you don't want to question anything. As long as you're here, you don't want to mess up. You don't want to believe, you don't want to go against the grain.
Right.
Because you don't know if you're right or not until after you're dying. And a lot of us are afraid of dying. So it's like, even if you try to get someone to see the basic of, which I think a lot more people 30 years ago, 50 years ago, don't believe it as much. But you still have people out here, when they think of Jesus, when they think of the Most High, they think of this image of this white person. And then there's this back and forth of, well, Jesus was really black and Jesus was this and his skin was copper and this, that, and the third. But I want to go a little bit further, because you think of religion in a completely different sense, right?
I do.
So break down to the people how you see religion.
Religion, for me, religion is nature. It's the wind, it's the sun, it's the moon, it's the stars, it's the blade of grass, it's the trees, it's the birds, it's you and I. Those things I can see and build upon. If I look at the book, and I'm talking about the Holy Bible here, and when I do read the story, I love to read the King James Version. The older ones, the better. In the beginning of the book, I'm not talking about the book of Genesis, which is a book that came later after Exodus, if you do the historical research on that. Exodus used to be the first book, but then Genesis, because
I didn't know that.
They wanted to figure some things out with telling your story, or a story, excuse me. But when I say read the beginning of the book, I'm talking about the beginning. Usually in a story, if we read in a book, you get a preface. You finna be reading XYZ. But in the introduction or the preface of the Bible, the book uses words like we're finna describe. In the older book, if you can find an old King James Version, it will give you words like we're finna talk about metaphors, symbolism. We're finna talk about allegory. Now, if I go back to my English cap, when I was in school, I put those words on. I'm knowing those things are not fact. We're talking about something else on a different level. So I don't think we've ever found the bones of Jesus the Christ. I don't think we've ever found the bones of Moses. These are prominent figures in this book. Where are the bones? That's proof I can say, oh, okay, maybe this is real. Now, again, I have to go back with what I seen and what I revealed to myself as truth. When I was younger, there used to be a store called Books A Million, BAM. Used to be the major store. Now Barnes & Nobles is running things. That book, and I was raised Pentecostal. Don't nobody love Jesus more than Pentecost except for Church of God in Christ folk in the black community, so-called black community. So when I saw that book, just meandering through the bookstore, and that religious book was in the fiction section, that presented to me in psychology what we call a cognitive dissonance. Mm-hmm. I thought that this was a bedrock of truth, an actual true book where these things were real. In my mind, I really did think a man turned water into wine, even though I never seen it. And I thought that same character walked on water. Never seen that either. But I was so mentally ingrained in my beliefs, which is not truth. I was so deeply ingrained in my beliefs, I thought all those things were true until my righteous mind come into effect and I started questioning, is that scientifically possible?
Don't you question. People don't like it. You're not supposed to ask questions.
Mm-hmm. That's why we will always face our detriment to this end and to possible extinction. Even though certain other books will say this, there is no beginning, there is no end date to a man that looked like you and I. No, they don't know when we first started working the earth. They have hypothesis on it. And when we were in school, in science, they gave us what's called Mendel's Law, where I believe when I was in school, we used to call it the Punnett squares.
Yeah.
Where you
Yeah, we
had
talked
white
about this.
flower and the red flower.
Right.
And you would cross-pollinate. They were showing us a truth then through dominant genes, those things. That's a truth that they was trying to show us then. You people been here for a long time. When I say you people, I'm talking about people of color now, or so-called Negro, Black, color, and African American. They don't know when we're going to end. I think our adversaries know that there is a specific expiration date for the so-called Caucasian and so-called white people in America. And that's not to be cruel. That's just science. There's articles about what the nation is going to look like in 150 years. And they have this image of some beautiful high yellow, we call high yellow black people with beautiful hazel eyes, but they don't look absolute Caucasian or Anglo-Saxon. That's science. That's not me. I didn't do that. So that promotes why, and Dr. Frances Welshing said this in her book. I believe it was the ISIS Papers, the book she wrote. They understand why a system is needed to keep a people oppressed, because we're extinct. This is the system of white people talking. We dying out. I have to keep these people under my thumb or in servitude. That's what religion system of supremacy helped build that. That's one block of it. It was a beautiful job. Like I say, you have black people that will cuss you out, fight you for their image of white Jesus and tell him he's not really white. But again, I know you're not reading the book, Negro, because in here it describes somebody that looked like you and I. But you rather somebody tell you the book, and you miss the high knowledge in the book.
Yo, let me ask you this real fast. If you think religion is nature itself, which a lot of people would agree with that. If you think that's what quote unquote religion is, yet you have this book that's been altered or manipulated, if you will, in order to fit a narrative. If religion isn't real to begin with, why would you go through all that trouble to do all of that? Why would you leave information in there that says that Jesus was a so-called something that wasn't Caucasian? Why would you leave that? Why would you leave the information in there? Why is that information even important if religion isn't what we think religion is to begin with?
The book is the King James Version is 400 years old. It just had its 400-year inception in the year 2011 when it was initially wrote 1611, King James Version. So the book, when the divine word was given to those that are so-called Jews, and I don't want to linger on that point too much, when the book was revealed to them in that revelation, they saw that their own end was in that revelation. So it would benefit me to change and alter the book to my version. So I have a problem, even though I subscribe to the King James Version. A version is just that. It's not the truth. It's a version. So people, they feel better and comfortable, I guess, subscribing to a different version, because the book, this is just what it is. You got the T.D. Jakes version, the Juanita Bynum version.
Oh, my goodness.
The New Latin Translation version, the Mormon book. You have all of these versions of an absolute truth. So, of course, if I'm writing this book, I'm gonna change some of the wording in it, and I've heard scholars and theologians say it's just to make it simpler for the reader. No, give me all those thous, then, thine, shalls and shall nots, all. I like all of that Shakespearean language.
Right.
Because again, I like the book because it actually translates beautiful in a court of law. The Holy Bible.
Right.
They swear on it, then we see them.
Right.
I swear. Now they also use the Quran, but they'll never want you to read the Holy Quran.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know they also use the
think
Quran.
Barack Hussein Obama, he swore on the Quran.
But he's not Muslim though, right?
But there's a beautiful truth in the Quran.
They say the Bible is a history book.
It's a history book. It's a law book. It's an astrology book. It's a book of numerology. It's all those things. But we just see it as a saving grace book that we sing to. Oh my God. It's crazy. It's almost insane, man, to see people like that. I don't demonize them. I don't judge them, but I just understand you don't understand. You don't have the key to the book. The Kabbalion will help explain some of that to you in that book. We don't understand that book. If we did, we'd understand the power of the book. And we'd understand why in 1983, under the Reagan administration, they made that book, Public Law 97-280. They legitimized that as a defense. Now, here you have in the book of Genesis, it says, now this is the Creator talking, I have given you every herb to consume as meat for your bones. At one point in time, marijuana was, oh God, say nope to dope. Reagan administration, just say no, all of that. But now you have the government, they ready to be the biggest dope dealers out there.
And it's legal now.
They're giving you license to do something that you have a divine right to do.
Because they can capitalize off of it.
Follow the money. But don't follow it too deep because you'll become a problem for the system. I have to honestly say, this system must be done away with. So if you see me as a problem, that's fine. I'm not afraid of it. Everybody has this appointed moment in and out this earth. So I know one thing for my children, that's what make me so avid about trying to make certain things change in this system. That cannot go on. I can't afford to have my son playing in his community on his bike, and just because how he looks, somebody may see him as a threat. That has to be done away with.
Platinum plan, contract to Black America, Biden's plan, whoever's plan. Mm-hmm. Do you think there will ever be a time in America when so-called African Americans, the descendants of slaves, will ever see reparations, regardless of what form that comes in? Whether it comes in financially, whether it comes in land, laws being changed, the system being changed, broken down, rebuilt. Do you think reparations will ever come for so-called Black people?
I don't like the word reparations. I like the legal term. Reparations is a legal term as well. I like the term restoration. We need to be looking at being restored via land, via our own system of government, because you absolutely have to understand we are our own separate nation of people. The founding fathers, they were only a dispensation to have 13 states. Somebody in their arrogance decided we're going to cross the Mississippi. We're going to cross over into the Rockies. That was high treason committed again. So again, once we study that, and you may need to start understanding, you need to push your adversary back where they belong, possibly to their own continent.
Okay. So I'm going to wrap this up, but before we wrap it up, I'm going to start off some sentences, and I want you to give me I want you to end the sentences for me.
Okay, we'll go.
All right. No sentence can end the same.
Okay.
So even if I started off the same way, you cannot end it the same.
Okay.
Okay. So if I was to say that pillow is, and you say that pillow is pretty, and I said, okay, that TV is big, and I come back to this pillow. This pillow is, you can't say pretty. You got to say something else.
Right on.
Are you with me? Okay. And of course, I got to start off with a bang. Donald Trump is
a businessman.
Joe Biden is
a career politician.
The coronavirus
did scare the hell out of the masses.
2021 will bring
a better future for me and my family.
Donald Trump is
a capitalist fighting globalist.
African Americans should
use their mind and wake up from their shallow grave.
Racism is
a part of the American society.
Everyone should
love themselves.
Everyone should love themselves. At the end of the episode, I give a shout out to a book, a movie, an album, book, movie, album, or a song. I want you to pick one of those categories and give a shout out to whatever you so choose and tell us why.
Off the top for me,
talk to the camera for me.
I have to give it the latest album for Kim. That Lie to Me song is a beautiful song to dance with your lady. It says everything that a man feel about his woman.
Lie to Me?
Yes.
By Kim?
Kim.
Kim who?
And I can't stop loving. He keeps the soul of rhythm and blues alive. People like him.
Oh, Kim. K-E-M. I'm thinking you said a woman. K-I-M.
No,
I love Kim.
Oh, yeah.
I love Kim.
New one, Lie to Me. Boy,
How new is this?
It's I want to say maybe 5 months old. Maybe.
Wait, but the
His album, it's a great track.
do you have a favorite Kim song?
Right now, it's a lot of me.
Man, I hadn't heard that, but I love
You
his
can't go
music.
wrong with Kim, man, and Maxwell. And all
Love
of
Calls.
those. You see what I'm saying?
But-
That's the type of music where you can honestly, just vibe after a hard day. A man come home from working in this crazy world. You come home throwing some good music like that. If your ladies around, grab her by her waist and slow drag on the floor with them.
All right, I got one more.
Yes.
The 2020 election will.
Am I supposed to end this one too?
I want you to end this one.
Oh, the 2020 election will show the mindset of the masses of us. It's going to speak volumes, the results of that election.
Okay. A Lot of Me by Kim. It's 2020 record. Go check it out because it gives you the ability to dance with your woman and it has a rhythm and it's a bunch of different things.
Beautiful. I mean, I can't speak highly enough of it. It's just, it's a beautiful groove. It's a beautiful groove. And the lyrics is awesome.
As always, it's Kim.
As always, it's Kim.
Say less. All right, y'all. That's going to wrap up this episode. Peace.